Look carefully. This is not an alien. One that looks like a mutated massive animal, but not quite. It has volume of a body, multiple legs, sometimes a tail end, but above all, it walks. There is no electric power, stored or direct, that makes kinetic avatar of the form come alive. Strandbeests, Dutch term that translates to beach beasts, are creations of Dutch artist Theo Jansen. For more than 20 years, Jansen has wholeheartedly devoted himself to create a new form of life. Blurring the lines between machine and animal, art and science, sculpture and performance, his Strandbeests seem so organic that from a distance they could be mistaken for huge insects or prehistoric mammoth skeletons. But they are made of materials from the industrial age, flexible plastic tubes and adhesive tape. They were born inside a computer as an algorithm, but they do not require engines, sensors or any other type of advanced technology in order to walk. They move thanks to the force of the wind and wet sand they find in their habitat of the Dutch coast. Jansen first began working on the mechanics of this almost 6 decades back. The kinetic structures are propelled with wind, and he calls them artificial life. The complex design is intricately assembled. For the physicist turned artist, it is not the creation of an ultimate dream machine, but rather has been an evolution, just like any living form on Earth. Furthermore, the recent additions of the species are enabled with intelligence and storage of energy. They can respond to the environment and alter their course when they touch water, and store wind to move when there is no natural breeze, almost like any living being, across flora and fauna, that can survive without consuming food through stored energy. Components of the beats are displayed as fossilium, Latin for fossils, at his exhibitions. Jansen references scientific principles to build these, but the sculptures sit at the overlap of visual and performing arts. After finishing his studies, Jansen began his artistic career in the 70s as a painter. However, after a while his physics background started to chase him and he changed course. He started to develop and build installations of which a UFO and the painting machine were the most talked about and remarkable. At that time, Jansen also became a columnist for the science section of the Volkskrant, a Dutch national newspaper, and wrote a column every fortnight. At the beginning of the 80s, Jansen began to create algorithm programs of artificial life simulation. His interest in designing living and autonomous organisms via software made him begin his series of kinetic sculptures Strandbeests, a project which has brought him international recognition. Among other awards, Jansen has received the Special Jury Prize in Ars Electronica 2005. These were a kind of fantasies about all kinds of phenomena, especially about evolution and physical issues. One of those pieces was about skeletons on the beach that would catch wind and collect sand to raise the dunes as a measure against the rising sea levels. This was the origin of the creation of the beach animals. 6 months later he started playing with an electrical PVC tube. Dutch PVC is distinguished by the yellowish color, in other countries it is often grey. Constructed as intricate assemblages of piping, wood, and wing-like sails, Jansen's creations are constantly being improved and have become excellently adapted to their sandy beach environment. The creations sport legs, which prove to be more efficient on sand than wheels. They don't need to touch every inch of the ground along the way, as a wheel has to. Jansen's interest in developing new life forms was particularly encouraged after he read the book of Richard Dawkins' The Blind Watchmaker. He had an idea for himself how evolution worked, but reading this book made it much clearer to him and he became fascinated by this process. Dawkins used a computer program to simulate selection in evolution. Jansen designed a similar program in which a kind of worm bugs lived in the computer and reproduced themselves and evolved as in real evolution. Jansen believes there are a number of problems for the survival and evolution of the beasts. The sand and the wind are the biggest problem. The sand settles in joints, and if you do not take measures in strong winds, the animals would disappear into the sand. The water is an obstacle. If they are in the surf for more than a minute, the legs will be sucked and they will not come out. The orientation at the beach is also a challenge. They can feel a bit of where they are and whether they are safe from the hardness of the sand. After all, the conditions for survival on the Dutch coast are often not optimal. That's why he made up all kinds of strategies to prevent the beast from blowing under the sand. They raise a leg every hour so that the sand falls off, then they stand on the beach again, so after a while they will stand on a hill. Furthermore, they are equipped with water sensors that warn them when they are in the water. Air equals energy is stored in so-called wind stomachs, which they can use when there is no wind. After an afternoon of research, Jansen saw the many possibilities of the tube and decided to spend a year of his life on this. The research has gotten really out of hand because after 30 years, he is still not tired of the material and the development of the beach animals. Especially the extinct beach animals are an overview of the history of the evolution of the beach animals. We can see this as an imaginary evolution, but it has indeed taken place but cannot be compared with the real evolution. What now takes place in the evolution of the beach animals in 30 years, takes a few million years in the real evolution. We can see it as a shadow evolution. Jansen's ideas are a kind of mutations. And as is known, most mutations do not give a good result, but we can view it as hopeful. It is not an intelligent design in which he is the creator, rather it is the other way around. Jansen is a slave to the tubes and have to focus on their directions. During his struggle with the animals on the beach, he get an answer to his questions and problems that he encounter. He get a response from reality that allows him to make adjustments. This results in a tortuous, unpredictable path that you can really compare with an evolutionary process. The extinct beasts can be seen as artifacts or representatives of the period from the evolution of the beach animals. From his laboratory in Ypenburg, Jansen studies the history of biological evolution to provide his new generation of creatures with greater and greater capacities. His dream is that one day they will learn how to evolve without his intervention and continue their lives as any other organism, subject to cycles of nature. All those who observe the beauty of Jansen's creatures for the first time, watching the way they move around the sand, one will understand immediately that the work of this engineer, scientist and artist is something really special. However, during more than a decade he has remained in the dark and has only recently been discovered by the international art community. In the last decade, dazzled by the digital revolution, his works could seem rudimentary, above all compared to the sophisticated productions his contemporary colleagues have been carrying out in the field of robotic art. The beach animals have been exhibited in both scientific and art museums. People in art museums approach the work with more imagination. The work more claims to an understated dream world. In science museums it is often a kind of representation with laser and loud music. The work is missing than the stillness of an art museum. The vulnerability of the beach animals played a role especially in the beginning. However, they have become a lot more resilient in the course of their development. Although Jansen still have to help them on the beach, there are signs that give hope that by the end of his life they will be able to live independently on the beach. They can sometimes resist the harsh conditions in which they live. The extinct beasts function within exhibitions and represent the species. Some beasts can be resuscitated. As an object, it retains its value. The works can last a few centuries. The tube may fade, but that only makes them more beautiful and more lived in. Jansen is already working on the 7th generation of beach creatures. These pieces can even carry passengers inside. The Animaris rhinoceros, a 2-ton giant which can be moved just by one person, reaching those places where there's no wind or sand, thanks to a clever system of impulse based on compressed air stored in soda bottles. The technical development and realization of the rhinoceros transport was carried out in 2004 by Hage Marink, wagemakers from Nieuwegein based on a cardboard scale model. The unique movement of the rhinoceros was already visible in this scale model. The rhinoceros transport was for a long time in Alberdegracht, in the Geuzenveld Slotermeer district, a place where it did not come into its own. In recent years, the district has had the rhinoceros restored, and together with the artist, a better place in the district has been sought. The artwork was placed in a special cage in the entrance zone in 2014. The beast was supposed to go off every now and then like the bulls of Pamplona, but this has remained only an idea. In the future, Jansen expects his creations to become more and more anatomically sophisticated. And someday, he hopes his beach creatures won't need him to keep on evolving. Entire herds on the beach will compete for being the fastest and more stable, and will transmit their DNA autonomously to following generations, already completely incorporated in their ecosystem. So what do you think about Jansen's creation? Thanks for watching. If you like this content, please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel for more. I'll see you on the next one.